Jai Anilo Premadano Paramakacho Gopi Jana Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. All right, we'll chant. Srimad Bhagavatam, text number, Canto 3, Chapter 31, text number 35. Na tatasya bhavin moho anda chanya prasangataha yoshi sangha yatha pumso yatha tha sangi sangataha. Natatasya bhavin moho bandaschanya prasangataha yoshit sangat yatha pungsho yatha tat sangi sangataha. Natatasya bhavin moho bandaschanya prasangataha yoshit sangat yatha pungsho yatha tat sangi sangataha. Mataji. Not. Tata. In that manner. Interesting how you've all been chanting this verse and now you'll find out what it means. Asya. Of this man. Bhavet. May arise. Moha. Infatuation. Bandha. Bondage. Cha. And. Anyaprasangata, from attachment to any other object. Yoshit Sangat, from attachment to women. Yata, as Pumsaha, of a man. Yata, as Tatsangi, of men who are fond of women. Sangataha, from the fellowship. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The infatuation and bondage which accrue to a man from attachment to any other object is not as complete as that resulting from attachment to a woman or to the fellowship of men who are fond of women. Purport. Attachment to women is so contaminating that one becomes attached to the condition of material life, not only by the association of women, but by the contaminated association of persons who are too attached to them. There are many reasons for our conditional life in the material world, but the topmost of all such causes is the association of women, as will be confirmed in the following stanzas. In the Kali Yuga, association with women is very strong. In every step of life, there is association with women. If a person goes to purchase something, the advertisements are full of pictures of women. The physiological attraction for women is very great, and therefore people are very slack in spiritual understanding. The Vedic civilization, being based on spiritual understanding, arranges association with women very cautiously. Out of the 4 social divisions, the members of the first order, namely Brahmacharya, the third order, Vanaprastha, and the fourth order, Sannyasa, are strictly prohibited from female association. Only in one order, the householder, is there license to mix with women under restricted conditions. In other words, attraction for women's association is the cause of the material conditional life, and anyone interested in being freed from this conditional life must detach himself from the association of women. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhustam Stapitam Jena Bhutare Swayam Rupakitam Hayam Dadati Swahanandikam Vanjipapatirudrashtakti Pasanjiti Vachapati Tanam Bhavani Yogaishnadevi Rodhamona. Well, as you can see, Srila Prabhupada has not pulled away from this, the subject and purport of the text, as might be more fashionable to do in the present day and age. He could have easily said many things to soften the statement of this text, but he did not do so. And therefore, we hear people suggest that Prabhupada's books need to be altered in certain ways to contextualize them for the present society. Anyway, leaving aside that subject, let us see what is stated here, clear meaning in what Prabhupada says. Very clearly he says that association with women is the most contaminating of all things, and it creates bondage, and nothing in this world will create further bondage more than this association. And if one wants to get liberated, then they have to free themselves, detach themselves from the association of women. So the issue here is attraction for the opposite sex. Obviously, one thing we can say immediately so that all the ladies in the audience will also focus, or some of them may not focus as much, is that whatever is stated here in terms of attachment to the opposite sex is equally applicable. That means that the greatest pleasure in material life is sex pleasure. And therefore, the Vedic culture makes arrangements for a reduction of intimate association between the sexes. That's why in this temple room, the men sit on one side and the ladies sit on another. You'll also find in olden days, in all religions of the world practically, there was a separation between men and women in the place of worship. And even in the home, because Prabhupada says here that 3 orders of life are restricted entirely from association. The student or brahmacharya, the Vanaprastha or retired person, and the sannyasi. And only the householder, and Prabhupada says, restrictedly is allowed to associate. And so we see that in olden times, the houses were made in such a way that the women's quarters were separate from the men's quarters. And husband and wife did not live together except for the purpose of procreating a child. They would not sleep in the same room together. And again, this is true in many different civilizations, not only in Indian civilization. Someone may say that this conception is outdated. The problem, of course, is that dying is not outdated. And being born again is not outdated. And neither is getting old and getting ill. These things will go on. They have gone on, they are going on, and they will continue to go on as long as there is material existence. And with this repetition of birth and death comes so much suffering. And so what is being taught here is to reduce suffering. If we want to accommodate the present conditions of the world, then you have to understand that you are going to accommodate repetition of birth and death. And with such birth and death comes so much suffering. Anyone who can suggest that the present world is not a place of suffering seems to me to be in great illusion. It is only a question of time until each one of us suffers in various ways. We are already suffering. The suffering that comes from the body, from the mind, caused by others, and from material nature, the devas. There's all kinds of sufferings which are created. And so, Vedic civilization was based on trying to find a solution once and for all kinds of suffering. It wasn't to look for some stopgap measures to alleviate suffering temporarily. Just as one person asked Prabhupada in Rishikesh, one lady, a European lady came, she was there. She asked Prabhupada, what is your movement doing to stop suffering? And Prabhupada said, what do you understand about welfare work? And, she said, what welfare work? What do you do to help people? And Prabhupada said, your understanding of welfare is like a person has a boil, and a boil fills up with pus, it's very hot, and in order to alleviate the pain, you blow upon it. He said, that's how much you understand how to reduce suffering. He said, our solution is to lance the boil. He said, that's the only way to get free from the suffering of the boil. You have to cut it, drain the pus, and then it can heal. So, a sadhu is a person who cuts with a sharp knife of knowledge and detachment. And this is a book. The Bhagavatam is a book for sadhus. And sadhus are not simply people who dress in satin clothing. It means a saintly person. Titikshasa, Pulinka, Suridam Sarvadevina. These are qualities by which a sadhu is known. Sadhu is very powerful. That means a saintly person, never mind whether they're male or female or whatever ashrama they happen to be in. They learn to tolerate the ups and downs of life. Yesterday I was sitting with Kirtana and Mother Janala was there with her baby, and I said, what is it like to be a mom? And she said, it's the greatest, what did you say? It's the greatest. And she says, heaven and hell all rolled into one. And so I said to her, this is the perfect answer of an American princess. Because she is an American princess. So I said, this is a perfect answer of an American princess, because it's interpreting life in terms of what pleases me and what doesn't please me, what makes me happy and what doesn't. And I said to her that this is a result of cultural upbringing. We are brought up in a society in which everything is interpreted in terms of how happy I am or how unhappy I am. And then I suggested that Indian civilization, it was based on a principle of dharma. And dharma has nothing to do whatsoever with how happy I am or unhappy I am. And this is the beauty of reading Mahabharata or Ramayana. You read Mahabharata, you read the Ramayana, and you see that the persons who are described there, they never act on the principle of what will make me happy or unhappy. They only act on the principle of what is my duty, what is my dharma. And because of that, they're actually happy. That is the only possibility of being happy all the time. Because then it doesn't matter what condition you're in. Because, and I in deference to Jana and to rescue her from the thought, I think that she has understood to a great extent Dharma. But nevertheless, in asking such a frank question and in her, immediate response, that's how she responded. So, I do think that she does understand this principle, and we all try to understand this principle. But I do say that it is a great advantage of being brought up in a culture. And that culture doesn't, it's a great advantage to be brought up in a culture in which you are taught to do your duty. I always remember that there was a puppet show that we were putting on. I wish this video had come out. I don't think it ever came out, but I taught Bhagavad Gita for children. I did a puppet show with Prana Vijay. And I think it was Rupanuga and Nathurna, was it, who acted as two persons in it, and they would sing a song. I remember Rupanuga's voice, and the song, you have to do your duty. All of the time, you have to do your duty. And this was the principle. All the time, you have to do your duty. So, the whole principle of Sanatana Dharma, look what it means. Sanatana Dharma, eternal duty, is to teach us how to prepare for the moment of death. And we have a perfect example, of Kirtana, who's with us. And I was thinking to myself, I guess I was going to say it tomorrow when there would have been more people, but maybe I'll repeat it tomorrow. Anyway, Keshav Brother is on here today. We should all give him our greatest thanks for staying with us for the past few weeks. I pray that he always feels that Radha Kalachandji is his home, which he does feel, and may he always feel that way. I was thinking that people are seeing Kirtana getting so much company and care, and everybody must be hoping that I hope I get the similar situation as she does. Well, so I actually had a very important thing I wanted to speak. I'll say it today. Maybe I can say it tomorrow again. I have to tell you that there's a good chance that if you continue to go the way you're going, you won't. Because she is getting, you get what you know, what do they say? You get what you...
So, you eat what you sow.
Anyway, you get paid back as much as you give. The reason that she's getting this kind of care, there's a very special reason for it. It's not just because she's dear to me, because I don't feel that she's more dear to me than anybody in this room. So that's not the reason. But she's dear to everybody here, or most everybody here, if not everybody here, for the reason that she has extended herself or given herself selflessly over the years. First of all, as a nurse, the occupation of a nurse, Prabhupada speaks about very honorable professions. And I think definitely a nurse is, he used to speak about Vaishyas, the farmers, as a very noble profession. Similarly, I think that nursing is a very honorable profession because you're constantly caring and serving others. And she did that for so many years. And you saw that when I was ill for 6 months, there were, everybody here certainly would have liked to have served me. And she got to do it nonstop, 24 hours a day, at the risk of her own life. And it was for 2 reasons. 1, because of her expertise as a nurse, but 2, because socially she was in a position where she could do it. She didn't have to look after the husband. She didn't have to look after children. She had nothing else to do. Now, Vedic civilization is actually arranged so that you free yourself, so that you can all be in this position, at least part of your life, where you can serve everyone. Because as long as you're a householder, you cannot do that. You can serve your husband, you can serve your wife, you can serve your children, you can try to do some extended service, but you're restricted. Because of what is the real reason? Because of duty, but the duty is based on attachment. You have to understand, duty develops out of attachment. That's why it says, when you give up all attachments, you no longer have any duties to this world. You see? As long as you have attachments, you got to do your duty. That's the only way you can get free from attachment. But once you fulfill those duties, you should be free from attachment. Then you should be in a position where you can serve others. So, we have many very nice grihastas in this community, but we have yet to develop the Vanaprastha ashram in our movement. This is the most important ashram, I think, that we have yet to develop. And it is, I would like to see some of you. Now, what is the age of retirement? It says 50 years of age. That was when a person could live for 100 years. You're supposed to retire at 50. If you're only going to live 80, then you should retire at 40. Now, recently one of my disciples retired. The president of the Suga temple, Jairam, he wrote me and said, I've retired. I thought, God, he's so young. And he said, I'm 50. I think he's young. He may not be 50, but he said, I think he said, I'm 50. And it struck me that actually when someone retires at 50, we think that's, like in most jobs, right? That's called early retirement. But it's not really early retirement. At 65, you're spent. Your body is... I looked in the airport yesterday morning. It's amazing how many people are in their 60s and are traveling now. And there's a lot of publicity about this. These are the best years of your life. But that's nonsense. They're not, because you're too old by then. So, I urge the household. So what does this mean? What is the problem? Is that people don't get married young enough. And there's good reason, because they're not properly raised when they're young to become mature by the time they're early 20s. And most people shouldn't get married in their early 20s because they're not mature enough yet. Therefore, they get married when they're 30 or 32. Then they have their children. It's very hard to retire at 50. But that's actually what you should do. And as I said, if you're going to only live to 80, which is the most likely age, you should retire when you're 40. If 50 means half life, half your life you're allowed to give for family life. The other 50% of your life, you're supposed to give for the service of humanity, the service of God. So I request those of you who are either approaching 50 or who have hit 50 and are going beyond it to wind it down. If you don't, you're very foolish. I tell you, you will not lose anything. You become happy. Kirtana is proving how happy she is. She keeps saying that, I'm so happy. Why? Because she has no attachment. Last night she said to me, I'm not sleeping. And I thought to myself, normally, that's a serious problem. If someone doesn't sleep, there's a reason. Why do you think your body needs sleep? Because your body and your mind need to rest, because they're constantly working. But if you're not struggling any longer with your body and your mind, you don't need to rest very much. It doesn't require, you don't need a break from the way your mind and body are berating you constantly. We're struggling so hard. I need to sleep just to relieve my mind. But she doesn't need to sleep. So all of these are, this is a great lesson. Another thing I was thinking, why do so many people go over there? The truth of the matter is that she's a sadhu. Actually, we have a saintly person living there. And the real fact is, people want her association. That's actually why they're going. It's not so much to give their association to her. They want her association. Because she's constantly absorbed in remembering Radha and Krishna. And as soon as you go into that atmosphere, you have to do that. I said to her, the only people that aren't here yet are Radha Chanchi, and it's only a question of time. So they, decide to walk over and get into the room also. Because she's got almost every other deity in the house. Everybody's bringing all the deities there. Why are all the deities coming there? I don't think I'm speaking purely out of sentiment. I think this is a fact. I always said to her that she's like, an old Brijbazi monkey. That's what I used to tell her. She's like, she's a sadhu. She's always been a sadhu. So I just want to, say to you, if you want this care at the end of your life, if you don't start giving of yourself freely, it won't come back to you later. You'll just have a couple of people who are friends coming over occasionally and inquiring about you. You will not have the kind of constant association. That's my thought. I may be wrong, but I think that. And that is a very important moment. So, okay. Now, getting back to there's a lot to bring out in this text. So what does this mean? Should we soften up on the lesson and allow ourselves more association? That depends. It depends on whether you want to take birth again in the third world. If you don't, you're going to have to develop detachment. Now, how do we practically work? Most of the people here, most of the devotees here are householders. They are certainly allowed association between man and woman, but limitedly. Now that's difficult because you're not living in Indian culture, so you don't separate the house. Remember that process won't work in the kind of families we have. Because in the Indian family, there was a father and many brothers and their wives living together. So the ladies had each other's company. Now the way society is set up is only a husband and wife. And it's impossible to live separately because you have to have company. People are social, they want friendship. So it's not practical. If you have to see this is very difficult to re-establish Vedic culture. The likelihood of us developing a joint Hindu family is very unlikely in the West. But without a joint Hindu family, it would be very bad if the husband and wife don't associate together. Because then they'll go out and seek mundane association. So the only solution is Vanaprastha, as far as I can see, in a quick way to say this. Since you're not going to have many brothers living together in the same house, and the women are also living together in the same house, the best thing is take Vanaprastha at a young age. When I say young, I say 50, 55. If you wait to 60, it's pushing. You have to make provision like this. Then what should you do as a Vanaprastha? That we should discuss. I'm not going to give the answer right now. That's something to be considered, how Vanaprastha should live. Now, don't leave yet if you can avoid it. I have other things to say. Now, there's further things to say. Here is Radha and Krishna, Radha Kalachandji. They are intimately associated. And our tradition teaches that the highest principle is the association of Madhurya Ras. Radha, Krishna, and the gopis. But we should never think that Krishna and the gopis are associating in a material way. The Goswamis have written countless texts on two levels, or two categories. One category is the loving affairs of Radha and Krishna. The second category is to explain that those loving affairs are not mundane. And not to confuse them in any way with what goes on in this world between male and female. So another way to overcome or to develop to overcome attachment is that householders particularly are recommended to do deity worship. The brahmacharis, vanaprasthas, and sannyasis are not so recommended because it is understood that they're already physically separated between male and female. But the householders are inclined or advised to do deity worship because they are inclined and practically are associated between male and female. So by doing deity worship, one develops an attachment for the form of the deity rather than the form of the opposite sex. Therefore, deity worship is essential in Grihastha ashram. Again, I say that many of you do not engage in deity worship. I realize that you have deities at home, but you don't take care of those deities very much. They're sort of like, they're your servants so that you can eat. We keep the deity in the house so that we can eat for Shabbat. But that's not the same as going into a temple, or if you have the consciousness at home of worshiping a deity with strictness, as is done in the temple. So you should take turns worshiping the deity. That's really what I remember when I went to Hyderabad. I had the good fortune of opening Krishna Consciousness, bringing our ISKCON movement, rather, to Hyderabad. And I remember I got very close with a group of Vallabhacharya people. They were the followers of Vallabhacharya, Grihastha followers, Gujaratis. And the whole group of them used to go daily for 3 hours and do deity worship in the temple. I remember, very strict. I was very impressed by this. So, I can't imagine that every couple here cannot engage in some deity worship to Radha culture, but they don't. Even though I say this lecture, they still won't, but still I'll say, I'll do my duty, whether you do yours or not is your problem. But my duty is to tell you that you should engage in deity worship. There should be a list, a long list, and it should be hard to get a place on that list. Instead of the pujaris having to beg people, could you please do deity worship? That's a disgrace. So, there were so many things I was going to say before, but I'm not in the habit of giving class, I think. I'm having to remember this must be the first class I've given in 3 months. Otherwise, I had many ideas that I was going to speak on when the Stupa showed me the verse. I was going to mention something about the physiological attraction for women. Why does the verse specify women as opposed to men? Women are more beautiful than men. They're physiologically created by Krishna with beauty. That's one of their great qualities. And so the statement is placed in this way, that they are beautiful and men become attracted to them. Women become attracted to men not simply for their beauty, but for care and protection. Finally, it comes to that. That's the reality. And so it's a different principle. And women make advancement by being attached to a man, and men don't make advancement being attached to a woman. So now, and so how does that work? I mean, these are so difficult. To talk about these subjects are very difficult because we're living in American society, and there's such a different ethos. How long should a woman remain attached to a man? That question could be asked. Well, certainly when she's young, she should be attached to her father. When she's married to her husband, and when she's older, to her son. That means she's never supposed to become detached. What does that mean? That means that if she thinks this way, she'll take birth again in the male body. But that's not our goal. We don't want our women to take birth again in the male body. Therefore, she should externally remain attached like this. But internally, even when she's young, even when she's married, and even when she's old, she should become attached to Radha and Krishna. Externally, she should remain attached, but not internally. Internally, if you remain attached, then you have to take birth again. So externally, it's all right, and that's required, so that society is kept in proper social divisions, and there's not all kinds of problems. But internally, you have to develop attachment to Sri Sri Radha and Krishna. Whether you're a woman or a man, it doesn't matter. I don't think I can think of anything else. You can, Mohammed, is there anything that I should say, or Prastuka, remind me of some points? Yeah.
Parent contradiction.
Okay.
We were talking about the men and women on living together in the same house, how that doesn't work because of the culture. So then I was thinking, well, one of the problems of taking Vanaprastha is the Vanaprastha, which is also a result of not being Vedic culture. So the practicality of doing Vedic things and not Vedic culture.
Sure. Well, Mahatma Prabhu, true to his name as a Mahatma, has brought up a good point. Vanaprastha life means you should be able to be supported, but there's no support. So financially, how does one become a Vanaprastha? Therefore, a household is going to have to save money in such a way that she can become a Vanaprastha. They've got to make some arrangement. Until our society grows to such a large degree that it can support brahmacharis, Vanaprasthas, and sannyasis, the householders are going to have to bank money during their married life so they can retire and be freed from having to work. There's no other solution. They have to put aside money. So you have to save money. Rupa Goswami gave some sort of formula. Whether you can follow this formula or not, you have to bank money so that you can retire. You must retire. The sooner you retire after 50, the better. That should be your goal. It should be a driving motive. I must retire. I must retire. Because you don't know when you will have to retire. So bank the money and save it practically in a realistic way, and then gradually system. You're going to bring your needs down very simply. I'll be very happy to talk with anybody personally when they're ready to retire and plan out what they should do. Imagine what a bounty there will be. We're not getting new brahmacharis. You must have noticed that. So where are we going to get our devotees from? There's only two places, from either giving birth to new ones or from retiring old ones. That's how we're going to get our manpower again, and woman power. Either bring in new babies or retire. Because while you're a householder, how much can you do? Practically. Very little. That's true. Every one of you who's a householder knows that. You try your best, but it's not easy. Christopher, you were going to bring up some things in what you had given class. Tell me some points that I might have missed. I wanted him to give class because he's going to have his marriage ceremony performed on Sunday, and I thought people will see that this is a brahmachari grihastha. I know he would have spoken in such a first-class way And then you would see that even a man, if a person is trained properly as a brahmachari, and even they get married, they remain a brahmachari. And I think you would have seen it by his class. But anyway, tell me what direction would you take?
I read a paper by, what's his name? Not the photographer?
Vishaka.
And I thought it was the best thing I ever read about this man and woman.
What was her main point?
The main point was that she was talking about verses like this, how often they're separated from the rest of the Prabhupada's fathers and and take that angle and present that the woman is also often seen as Durga.
Yeah, prison. Yeah, I mean, I think I get your point. I think I get her point. I hope that this class and this text does not make men hateful towards women or women to feel ashamed of themselves. That's not at all the intent of this class or of this text. It's simply pointing out the reality that attachment to the opposite sex creates bondage. That's the message. There's no other message in this. But I have never seen in this community that there will ever be a problem of women becoming an object of dislike. There's no possibility that most of the women are in control of the situation. I'm not at all worried that in this community, women don't have their position. But I think there have been problems, and I also even participated sometimes in those problems with our movement, where due to improper understanding, I would say, of, let's say there was no Vedic culture as a background, and therefore women often were, looked down upon or made to feel ashamed. But I don't frankly feel that to be the case here in this community.
The point she made in the paper was, but then on the other side, women can be seen as Lakshmi.
Yeah, Lakshmi, and also there are statements in Bhagavatam that says that a woman is the proper boat for a man to climb upon in order to get out of the material world. In other words, by entering the household of life and leading a religious life, a woman helps her husband to control his senses, which were otherwise impossible to control in this age. Therefore, sannyas is not recommended in this age. Grihastha life is recommended. But Grihastha life is supposed to lead to Vanaprastha life. And Vaishyas, a Brahmin is supposed to take sannyas, or can take sannyas, but Vaishyas don't necessarily take sannyas. I wouldn't say that some of the people I know in this community will ever be sannyasis. I would never recommend it to them. But they can be Vanaprasthas very nicely.
I think another aspect of the confusion, which we saw in the movement in the earlier days, when the hospital could read verses like this, they would say bye-bye to their wives.
Yeah.
So there's as you're saying, there's a time to be attached,
Yeah.
there's a time to be detached.
After there was a whole blow-up in Mayapur in 1976 about this, then then Prabhupada sent me to China. And then I was on my way to China, then in Honolulu, and I said to Prabhupada, the way I said to him, what I was preaching to the men on our bus, Prabhupada, you must say that. And I said, don't associate with women. He said, but you must say that to a brahmachari. But you're right, to say it to a household is problematic. Now let's see if ladies have any questions or comments.
I just have a comment. Another comment on this is that we were just sort of with classes for Radha, and he made the point that because of the type of families, the culture or lack of that we have in the West, we never had any attachment for most of us to our families. So when we got married and had children, there was just no sense of attachment at all. And we had the opposite feeling that that was wrong and bad and not Krishna conscious. So we have to sort of develop that to some degree to even get purified.
Yeah, I mean, if you live in an Indian family, you'll see how tremendously loving they are towards each other. So loving, and it's not just in India. I've seen it. I mean, in America also there are some Indian families like that, but I've seen this, but in Asia, especially like in the Philippines, very loving attachments between family members. In India, it is very special, you know, and there's a great deal of satisfaction. A person who is loved can love. The amount of love you get from your family directly can affect the way you love Krishna. There's actually, you can be connected to it. So it's very important to shower love upon children. And it's very important. Prabhupada said, I remember when one couple were, Prabhupada pointed them out to me and he said, very nice couple, he said, husband and wife should be very loving towards each other. So I'm not suggesting that it shouldn't be that way. I'm just suggesting that we should also understand the principle that apart from this love, there also has to gradually develop a detachment. The only way you can get detached is by getting a higher attachment. Therefore, simultaneously, while you're in household life, you have to be developing your love for Radha and Krishna. And that happens by chanting Hare Krishna, but do more. Be better to be more loving towards husband and wife and more loving to Radha and Krishna. Then both things will be satisfied.
I'm seeing how now my children are grown older, growing older, making a major change in our life, but that the extended family that is in the Vedic culture of the grandparents that are there,
very supportive,
the in-laws, everyone there. But I'm also seeing how actually that there's a and in this country where all our families are all over. My children hardly know that.
Yeah, they know the family of this temple more closely.
Actually,
So that would be nice if this temple and the devotees see this as a village, and you see this as your spiritual family and your extended family, because you don't have, as Nandini says, your real family members, blood relations are very separated from you. But the devotees in this community could be taking the place of those family members, and I think to some extent they do. It takes time. Not easy. Yes.
I just want to glorify the Dr. Maharaj because he's with 31 boys that, traveling all over the United States. And I just see how he's really personifying exactly what you're talking about.
Yes, Radha Maharaj is the most clear, is the most certain way that any of these boys, as far as I can see, apart from the way they were raised by their parents, he is the single reason why they will be Krishna conscious throughout their lives. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind, any boys that become attached to him, he is able to bring them through their difficult teenage years and make them permanently want to be devotees. He has that empowerment. It's very, very wonderful, special. Very special. Okay, last question.
I just see more Vanaprastha who not qualified to take something else. How do you see his latter years of life, especially at the time of death? Would it be advantageous for his wife to be there, or would it be just
I don't think it'd be any problem for a Vanaprastha to have his wife with him at the time of death, because by that time I would expect that he should have reached the consciousness. Just the best example of Vanaprasthas I've ever seen so far are my disciples in Los Angeles, Vidura and Manjur. I told you about them, didn't I, last time I was here? Did I tell you about them?
No.
Okay. They're Gujaratis. They were initiated in Houston. Their family lives in, moved to Los Angeles, so they moved there. He's 80. He's 82, she's 80 years old. Vidura Manjur. The family is initiated by Lokanath Maharaj, the son and wife. And so he wanted to leave home. So the son said, why should you leave home? We're devotees, we're initiated devotees. You don't need to leave home. He said, no, it's my duty to leave home. I must leave home. I'm so old now, I have to serve Krishna full time. I don't want to be so close with the family. So they said, they kept pleading. He said, if you don't arrange it, I will call the temple president Swaras, and he will personally arrange for me. So they wouldn't arrange it. So he calls Slavasa, and Slavasa arranged an apartment. He moves into the apartment. And I have to tell you, he was paralyzed from his legs down. He got a surgery and he started to walk again, right? His spine. And he started to walk again. So Slavasa arranges an apartment for him across the street from the temple. He and his wife now, I went to visit them. Last time I went to see my mother, and I never went to my mother's house. Although I asked Prabhupada this person, how could Chaitanya Mahaprabhu see his mother after sannyas? Prabhupada said, no, you can't see your wife, but you can see your mother. So I have never ever gone to my mother's home. So my mother, the last time I saw her, she said to me, well, can't you come to the house? One time she said, you didn't grow up in this house. We grew up in New York City, not in Los Angeles. So I said, I've never gone to your house. You always had to come to the temple. Ever since the day I joined this movement, I have never gone to your home. She said, but you will come to this house after I die. And you won't come while I'm living. What kind of religion is that? That was a strong argument. So I agreed to go there, and Balaram went with me, and I went to her house. So then I couldn't go to the temple that day, and I hadn't seen this couple in 3 years, Vidura and Manjari. Manjari met me at the airport. I said, where's Vidura? He's doing deity service. I said, didn't he want to see me? He said, he wanted to see you so much, but he has taken a vow to do the seva to the deity. So I said, I couldn't come to see him. She said, why didn't you come? I said, because my mother's 80 years old. She said, I'm 80 years old. Vidura is 82 years old. Why didn't you come to see us? If only age is the question. So I promised him, okay, I'm coming to see you. So the next time I went to Los Angeles, I went to see her. So, now listen to this. She's 80 years old. She cooks the lunch for myself and my godbrother. He serves the lunch. Then after I went to rest, he comes and massages my feet. And I said, how is your life, Vidura? He said, oh, very good. He said, every morning I get up at 2 o'clock in the morning. He said, I get up at 2 o'clock in the morning and I give myself a massage on my legs, otherwise my legs will be paralyzed. It takes me more time. By 4 o'clock, I and my wife, 3:30, we're in the deity room. We prepare the deities, all the deity offerings and everything for the deities. And then, the deity worship is done. Every day we do this service, we go to bed, and he told me his whole schedule. And, at 80 years of age, 82 years of age, this is the service he's doing. So I said to him, what can I do for you, Vidura? He said, I want only one blessing from you. He said that I'm making one prayer every day whenever I worship the deity. That my dear Rukmini Dwarkadish, I'm simply praying to you that while I'm engaged in serving you personally, I can leave my body. As I'm worshiping you, I want to give up my body in the midst of the worship, and within 30 minutes after I give up my body, my wife should also give up her body, so that we can both immediately go and serve your lotus feet in the spiritual world.
Yeah.
He said, he said, you're my guru, I know you have the power, give me that blessing. Now look at that. So when a husband and wife are thinking like this, what is the question of not being with each other at the time of death? There's no harm. They're so devoted to the deity, and they see each other as life's couple. They've been married for over 60 years. They're inseparable. But that attachment is absolutely, completely absorbed in service to the deity.
In that vein, are you saying that if someone is qualified to take sannyas, but is in a situation like that, then we would actually be getting that?
Yeah, that person could never, that's kind of person who takes sannyas. Each person, it's not that one has to take sannyas. If one can, that's fine and good. But one has to see that it's practical also. In that case, it would have been a detriment to take sannyas. There's no reason. He's as good as a sannyas. And the whole Indian community, you realize how inspired they are seeing this couple? You realize how the devotees are. All the Western devotees seeing this couple. This couple is so, you can be sure if they ever fall ill, they're going to have constant association, like Kirtan. So this is, this talk is about how to prepare oneself for the moment. That's what this message is about. We have to be sober. And the sober reality is, every one of us is born to die, sooner or later. I told Kirtan, I said, Krishna's keeping you alive just to make this community more advanced. Because people are getting more association in Krishna consciousness now in your condition being like this than anything I could do with them. I can lecture and lecture till I'm breathless, but your association is more valuable right now. Okay, it's time for one last comment, Mother Paloma.
It is a fact that Prabhupada said that all boys and girls, they should be married, and also, like you said, it's not recommended sannyasa even for this age, because it's so difficult to live alone, because it's Kali Yuga. So we need association, we need some support from our partners. But myself, I am living alone so many years in Krishna consciousness. I am now 29 years in the movement. So I just would like to share with you this my experience of how I can live like this alone in this movement, not being married. So I just realized how it is possible, because personally I was very afraid that I will never be together with my husband, because he will leave me with children and I will be completely miserable. So this is why I was so much worried about this marriage. But Krishna never disappointed me, because 29 years, every day curtain is open in the morning without fail, and I can see Krishna with Radharani, very beautifully dressed, and he never leave me alone, he never disappointed me. So this is the greatest mercy, and it's very great relief to the heart. I am not alone, because Krishna always, every day, I can see him. This is what you would like to
So
say.
Mother Paloma has said that those who find themselves not married must have an association with Krishna and the deities in the temple. And if they have that daily association and realize this is my association, then they won't feel alone. In other words, she's telling you emotionally, this is not something this is from her heart. She's telling you if you can actually soften your heart and realize that the deities are personalities, real persons, then you can feel their company and not feel yourself alone. And with that, we will end the class. Hare Krishna.
Jai. Gurudev ki jai.